How much will the queen of DPS in the history of Star Rail do? Acheron versus Firefly. How much damage are we doing? 1,000,000? We can break this elite and just do insane damage. 640k. Hello internet, and welcome to the first episode of a character versus series in this channel. This will be a series where I take two characters and put them in their best teams in order to showcase to you what they're good at and what they're perhaps having an issue with. And today we have the queen of damage, Acheron, versus the queen of break damage, Firefly. See, in my previous video, Firefly was doing so much damage that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to actually compare her with one of the best damage dealers in the game. Can Firefly challenge the throne of the best DPS though? We'll see in this video. Without further yapping, here are the stats on my DPSs. I'll be showing the rest of the stats near the end of the video, but here are some disclaimers first. All the information you see in this video is based on the creator experience server, so changes may occur. Additionally, you realize that Acheron has an E1 here that gets me 18 crit rate. This is an attempt to balance the buff DPS because this week, the MOC buff really aids break effect DPSs. However, it is impossible to fully balance them, I hope you understand, which is why it's important to note that this video is not a mathematical proof that which DPS is better. It's just two teams in the current meta and how they perform. Moving on with Firefly's stat line. Now in these videos, I try to make them as close in terms of stat value with each other, but it is still impossible to make them exactly the same though. But just like this relic piece, I try to balance them as best as I can, giving them at least 2 to 3 effective stats. And with Firefly, she is helped by the buff, therefore she is E0. This should make it a bit more fair. Speaking of which, here are the team. This is what I believe to be the best setup for both of these DPSs that will allow them to shine in this MOC. We'll be pitching both of them against Argenti. And what I will do is to try and make the best play possible that is given to me. Now certainly I'm just a human, so sometimes I might misplay, but again, this is not mathematical evidence of which DPS is better. It is mainly to showcase you how they both play. And without further ado, let's start. And here we go with Acheron's team. We're gonna start with Aventry's technique followed by Pella's E. This should be the best option I have with this team at least though. And coming into the fight, we will be slaughtered by the enemy. And finally, we'll get our first turn with Pella, which will just do a basic into our ulti. With an Acheron team, you'll realize that you have to rely on the debuffs from your allies, which is, you know, it's quite obvious. So we have Cyril's ulti here as well. And very quickly, we've finished Acheron's entire setup, right? We've planted every debuff we need, and here comes Acheron with the ultimate. How much would the queen of DPS in the history of Star Rail do? We shall find out right now, and it is a ginormous 768k, followed by more E's as well that does 100k plus each. We've just done Kill the Trotters. That means we can get an extra turn here for another 100k due. And that is what the queen of DPS can do. And within one ultimate, we've pretty much cleared out the entire wave. We can preserve the 0 cycle clear for this wave as well, I believe. We're gonna just do a bunch of basics for our debuff first. Here we're gonna use our Eve Adventure to get our barrier ready, and here we queue in the final ultimate that should absolutely murder this one elite. And you can see as well, Acheron against single against a lot of enemies. Doesn't matter, she does a lot of damage anyway. Moving on with Argenti, we're gonna start by planting yet another debuff through Aventry, right? That's why he's so good with Acheron as well. Pella goes here with a Q into my ulti as well. We're just gonna plant those debuffs, getting Acheron's stack up. And here with Acheron with the E. Now, similarly to any DPS, she has like a down period when her E's not going to be doing as much damage as compared to her ulti, right? But that was still 84k. We're going to get slaughtered here, but we already have our ultimate because we have Trinity Universal Rocket on our gacha inventory. Here comes even more debuff, and we can go in and queue Acheron's ulti. How much damage are we doing right here? We're doing 590,000. This is expected of an Acheron, right? That's why she's so strong. But the real question is, how does Firefly compare to this, which we'll find out soon. And we can see that we're chipping down the Knight of Beauty very easily. And right now we're in a situation where we need 9 stacks of Acheron in order to get the LT to get the 20% of health gone for Argenti. This is the down period. You can't really do too much damage right now with Acheron. But regardless though, we finally gotten our ulti. With her allies being speedy, she doesn't really like have that big of a downtime, right? She'll constantly have her ulti in no time flat. And with this final one, we're gonna end the phase with 600k damage. Insanity. Moving on with our E, we're back to our down period. 40k is not that good, not that bad, eh? And here we have the phase 2 of Argenti, which we should be okay. Here comes Aventry with the debuff for Acheron. So boom, that's gonna help me out in terms of damage. We're gonna get attacked here for nothing. And all I gotta do now is just the usual. Have my allies take turns, land those debuffs and death threats especially in order to get the 9 stack on Acheron. That is the main gameplay of Acheron. Here comes the ulti from Cyril. That should be the 9th stack as well. So without further ado, let me murder you. How much damage would this be? This should be a lot though. million damage in MOC. What the crud? And just like that, Avengers is dead. That is a million. That is insane. What the crud? Oh yeah, that is what the queen of DPS can do. But how about Firefly though? And here we have Firefly's setup, which should be the best break setup there can be. We have Gallagher, Rame, Troll Laser as well. All of them help you do break damage or super break damage. We're gonna go in with the technique of Fireflies to get that fire weakness in there. So that's the first point of interest with Firefly, right? You will always have the fire weakness. It's something that Acheron doesn't quite do. So here comes Sam. We're gonna use our E in order to get our ult charged up. And this will be the second point of interest. With Acheron, you can always be at full health. No problem, right? Right now, you can see that Firefly is low on HP. This is where she's the most vulnerable to randomly dying to enemies just hitting her, right? Yes, she has a passive that helps her mitigate damage, but that's not just immunity to death. But regardless, though, let's continue. We got Michael Jackson here with the E. We're gonna go with our ultimate. This will be crucial in order to get more super break damage in for Firefly later. Next up, we have the Gallagher, which will be doing his ulti to get the besotted on the enemy. This will help me do even more break damage. And in between, we're gonna cut with Firefly's ulti. This will actually advance Firefly first so that we can break this elite and just do insane damage, 640k. And with that, we have only one enemy left, which is a common occurrence even with the Acheron team. To end it, we got Firefly again, 245,000 easily. And now we have the Argenti phase. We will struggle with Firefly's E since she's still in her ult state, and you'll notice that the damage is just non-existent right now. That is the point of interest number 3. Firefly does nothing unless you can break someone. By killing the Troll, I did get an extra action here, and we're gonna do E again. Again, no damage. And the game will go on with my ally setting up again, getting the buffs up with Harmony. Troll Laser not doing much because they're not imaginary weak. And here we're Gallagher, and I'm not gonna hit the boss like I did last time. We're gonna let Firefly do the honors. We're gonna break Argenti with this E here, which does 347,000. We're gonna have a list that compares all the numbers like later. Here comes Runway with the ultimate, and we'll have Firefly against a broken Argenti. This is where she shines, 400k nearly with ended the phase already. Moving up with the phase 2, and we gotta go through all of that again. We have to break Argenti first before doing any damage at all, which is exactly what we did. We have to tank some damage right here. So boom, Gallagher thankfully gets enough for the ulti here, which we're not gonna use yet. We'll use one E from Firefly, which right now she doesn't have enough energy. As you can see, she's missing just a tiny bit, which will be fine. We'll get them later. Gallagher, he uses a basic into the ulti to give me an extra turn so we can get closer to breaking Argenti. So boom, there we go. That's halfway through. We're gonna use an enhanced basic attack here, which nearly breaks him. And with this kick from Firefly, we get enough for the ulti, advancing my action forward. And just like that, we are able to break Argenti. So there is some calculations behind there. And that is 461k damage as well. And with that, Argenti is left pretty much in shambles. He's almost dead now. And I have my whole team coming up, all with super break, including Michael Jackson here, which is gonna do some damage here. Actually, he got shielded, so we did nothing. But either way, well, we got Gallagher. But all of them doesn't matter because we've got the queen of break DPS taking an extra turn for the 410k nuke. And just like that, we've defeated them. Interestingly enough, the immediate observation is that we're able to clear them in the same exact cycle count. And that is how Acheron and Firefly, both with their best setup, play in MOC this week. Now pay attention because Bailu's looking at you. This is not mathematical proof of saying which character is better, because honestly, the memory turbulence has already messed everything up, and I can't really level the playing field well. This is just a video that shows you how both teams play and what their pros and cons are, which here are the facts and figures that I found. And this is what I'm able to compile. Both Acheron's and Firefly's team only took 2 cycles to clear MOC 12, which, well, they're good. In terms of turns taken, though, is where we see some difference. Acheron herself took 5 turns in order to clear the whole thing, while Firefly had to take 11 turns. That's more than double what Acheron took. But this is an obvious result of different kits and especially different stat lines. Acheron prefers her allies to take more actions so they can land debuff for her ulti, while Firefly prefers to take turns herself and is built with high speed. In terms of the number of ultimates used, Acheron used 5 ultimates, which is a lot more than Firefly's 2 ultimates. This goes to show that Acheron's kit heavily relies on the ultimate usage, while Firefly's kit heavily relies on the turns taken after each ulti. And finally, we have the highest damage total. This is the highest damage documented per screenshot. And from Acheron, we have a whopping 1,088,000 damage. To dive deeper into this, firstly, Acheron is able to hit 5 targets on the map. And secondly, she was buffed by Argenti's mobs. To obtain the buff from Argenti's mobs, you have to defeat the mobs. And since Acheron is able to distribute damage across all the map so very well, she's able to defeat the mobs no problem. Same can't be said for Firefly. During the Argenti phase, Firefly was not able to break the mobs around her, therefore she can't really do too much damage to the mobs at all. And in the end, Firefly can only target 3 targets targets anyway. Hence why damage per screenshot wise, Acheron will always have more if there are more enemies. As for Firefly, the highest damage that's documented is 640,000. Still insane, especially when you consider it's against 2 targets. This is done through an enhanced skill after her ultimate. And from this we can see how different these two characters are, but to get a better idea, we have this graph that I made in Excel. The horizontal axis stands for the actions taken while the vertical stands for the total damage. You can see that generally Acheron simply does more damage. The main reasoning behind this is Acheron does not care whether or not the enemy is broken or not, so the lowest point of her damage will never be that low. As for Firefly, the damage during her ultimate is very good, but the moment her ulti ends, you'll see a flat line in damage where the enemy is not broken. There are a lot more information to be drawn from this. For example, Firefly's highest damage came from when 2 of the elites are broken, but if you keep looking, during the Argenti phase, her damage was never close to her peak. This is simply because we were only able to really break Argenti himself, but not all the mobs around him. If I were to be able to break everyone, Firefly's damage will easily match Acheron's. That will only be true until Acheron's final hit came in, where she was buffed by Argenti's mobs and there were 5 enemies total. When it's against 5 enemies, Firefly will never be able to defeat Acheron in terms of damage because, well, she can't target the whole map. Acheron has no problem doing that. However, even with Acheron's high damage output, Firefly only took 1 extra action to beat the whole stage, which shows you how much Acheron overkills the mobs instead of having the damage beyond the boss. But as a conclusion though, Firefly is not that shabby at all that she can actually even put herself against Acheron, the best DPS in the game. However, do remember that there's a lot of nuances in this. It's not even a level playing field because Acheron does not have the MOC buff, while Firefly is pitched against Acheron that hits 5 enemies. Please do not take this video as mathematical proof, and rather take this video as a showcase of what is unique for these 2 different comps. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll be all for today's episode of Character Versus. I hope I helped you out in showcasing what these 2 can do and what their issues are. A TLDR though, I don't think we can dethrone Acheron. She's still just too busted. Let's not forget with Firefly, if you can't break them and if they are like immune to weakness, her value will instantly drop. Compared to someone like Acheron, she'll just be usable no matter what. Unless the enemy is immune to debuffs, which we haven't seen yet, but hey, you never know. And in terms of who plays better, I feel like it's more subjective. It's different for everyone. But me personally, I like Firefly. At least in the meta right now, it is so easy to use her. You get the fire weakness on, you break them, and instantly it is over. You take a turn, it's always 400k or above damage. It's hella fun, man. But that'll be all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below any ideas you might have. And yeah, let me know as well what you think about this format. And that will be all. Take care.